WJDC, Winter Park, Orlando, the home of the Canio Smooth Jazz Show. Enjoy.
From Astoria to the Broadway, it's time for the Queens New Yorker. And here is a man bringing the info, the uber, snazzy, and jazzy, Mr. Keyshawn
Thank you, Jason Kelly, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to this edition of the Queens New Yorker. It is Thursday, October 10th, 2019. This is episode 32. It is the third show of the third season, and we are happy that you're with us here for another great edition. And we've got two cities tonight for you. Yeah, we've got time for them. But we hope that you enjoyed the tribute over about 4 weeks ago when we did the tribute to the September 11th tragedy that happened. This was the 18th. That was the 18th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks on the Twin Towers, and that had 7 views or 7 listens to for that event, and so far that was pretty good. And then, of course, the third season premiere was the history of Rochdale Village, and it had 4 listens. But here's the thing that really is taking off. We have a YouTube page, as probably some of you know. In our group pages, I've also listed that as well. And one of the things we're doing, or what I'm doing, is I'm uploading all of the archive episodes from the past 2 seasons up to YouTube. Now, of course, granted, our show is going to cut down the amount of time put on the show. So our show is only going to be 15 to 20 minutes long at most, so we've cut 10 minutes off. But a lot of the back episodes are going to be up to a half an hour. So we're going to put those into the archives, put them on YouTube, so you can re-listen to them and get the views up there. I'm happy to say that YouTube channel right now has the first 21 episodes. It has a grand total of 318 views since May 27th. So the channel's been up for 5 months. And I'm very proud of the 20 subscribers that are on YouTube right now that have subscribed to the channel. And if you are a subscriber to the Mixcloud and you want to go over to YouTube, we've posted links for you. They're over there. You can also go over to the Facebook group page, and you can, of course, watch the video from there. It'll take you to it, link it to it. That way you'll be able to view it on both Mixcloud and YouTube. So we want to get everybody basically working the same thing here. All right? Back episodes of the Queens New Yorker will go on the archives on YouTube after the posting. So when we get caught up with the first 2 seasons, season 3, episode 30, we'll eventually get up there in the archives and be posted on YouTube, hopefully with more than 4 listens, and maybe it'll get more views. Okay? So, I've had to do a little bit of tweaking to the episodes, as I realized that when you upload an MP3 of an audio file, you actually have to put a slideshow presentation to get it to actually accept itself on YouTube. Nonetheless, success is going where it needs to go. So the back episodes of the very first shows all the way up to episode 21 are now being uploaded onto YouTube on a different platform with a different audience, and we hope to get everybody on the same bandwagon. Meanwhile, in reality, we are on episode 32 of our great show here on Mixcloud that's been on here for the past 3 years, and we're happy about that. So, hopefully, with whoever's in the group can get there. We've got a new member also, too, for the Facebook group page. Welcome aboard, Christopher. Thank you. And I'll talk to Christopher and let him get an opportunity to watch all of the shows on YouTube. That way he can up the views. One person can up the views on all of them. So we'll see what happens. All right. Well, I promised you in the next show, Rosedale, when we're going to actually have time to do St. Albans, too. So here we go for the next 15, 20 minutes. Rosedale is a neighborhood in the borough. It's on the border of Queens and Nassau County within Long Island. And it's located in Queens Community District 13, and the zip code is 11422. It is patrolled by the New York City Police Department's 105th Precinct. Now, Rosedale was originally conceived in the consolidation of the borough of Queens as a part of what is now Springfield Gardens. At the time, the Laurelton Land Company was in charge of the new borough of Queens, and it was dotted with farmland that was isolated from each other. So construction on an acceptable mode of transportation was started immediately. The Southern Railroad of Long Island, which is now the LIRR, or Long Island Railroad, was built on the whole area. Today, Laurelton, Rosedale, and Springfield Gardens were served by Laurelton Station. The area was also connected to the Brooklyn Waterworks. In the 20th century, the water system was less needed, and its use dwindled. Today, the ruins of the aqueduct system can still be seen, and after the Long Island Railroad's construction, many new roads, such as Francis Lewis and Sunrise Boulevard, today Sunrise Highway, were constructed. The area that is now Rosedale remained farmland until the mid-1930s. After the former period of relatively slow growth, development rapidly turned Rosedale into a suburban community, and Rosedale was originally known as Foster's Meadow. In 1976, Bill Moyers presented a documentary titled Rosedale, The Way It Is. The program addressed the racial tensions in this community, which was at the time in a transition from what had been primarily an Irish-American, Italian-American, and Jewish community to what is now mostly a community of African-Americans and Caribbean immigrants. The area is home to many Caribbean immigrants compared to the Irish, Italian, and Jewish Americans of the neighboring Nassau County communities of Valley Stream and Woodmere. Now, Rosedale is bordered to the north by Cambria Heights, to the east by Valley Stream, and North Woodmere, both in Nassau County, to the west by Laurelton, Springfield Gardens, and JFK International Airport, and to the south by Inwood and Lawrence in Nassau County. Now, it is at an eastern edge of New York City, at its border with Valley Stream, forming part of the boundary between Queens and Nassau County. The neighborhood is part of Queens Community Board 13. Many roads of importance in Queens also run through Rosedale, such as Francis Lewis Boulevard, Conduit Avenue, the Cross Island Parkway, Belt Parkway, as well as Rockaway Boulevard, Sunrise Highway, and Merrick Boulevard, which connect Queens and Nassau counties. For more about Warnerville and Meadowmere, you can read the articles. They're small neighborhoods within Rosedale, and the area is served by the 11422 zip code, which also covers Rosedale and parts of Kennedy Airport. Warnerville is surrounded on three sides by Jamaica Bay, just to the southeast of John F. Kennedy Airport, and comprises just 3 streets bordered by Rockaway Boulevard on the east, while Meadowmere is surrounded by Nassau County and comprises just 4 streets and 6 blocks, bordered on the west by Hook Creek and on the east by Rockaway Boulevard. You can look at the rest of the demographics, the recreation, the education, the public schools, and the notable residents, which we'll all be touching base on later as we continue our series on the Queens New Yorker. Now to the next southeastern Queens neighborhood. Let's go to St. Albans. It's a residential middle-class community in the borough centered on the intersection of Linden Boulevard and Farmers Boulevard, about 2 miles north of JFK. It's bordered by Jamaica to the northwest, Hollis to the north, Queens Village to the northeast, Cambria Heights to the east, Laurelton to the southeast, Springfield Gardens to the south, and South Jamaica to the southwest. The small western enclave of Addisley Park is a U.S. historic district where many notable African Americans have lived, including Jackie Robinson, W.E.B. Dubois, and many other jazz musicians and entertainers, including Fats Waller, Ella Fitzgerald, Lena Horne, and Count Basie. St. Albans is located in Queens Community District 12, and the zip code is 11412. It is patrolled by the New York City Police Department's 113th Precinct. Politically, St. Albans is represented by the New York City Council's 27th and 28th districts, respectively. Now, part of a land grant to Dutch settlers from New Netherland, Governor Peter Stuyvesant, in 1655, the area, like much of Queens, remained farmland and forest for most of the next 2 centuries. By the 1800s, the lands of 4 families, the Remsons, Everetts, Ludlams, and Hendricksons, formed the nucleus of this sprawling farm community in the eastern portion of the town of Jamaica. In 1814, when the village of Jamaica, the first village on Long Island, was incorporated, its village's boundaries extended eastward to Freeman's Path, now Farmers Boulevard, and south to Lazy Lane, called Central Avenue in 1900, then Fock Boulevard in the 1920s, and now Linden Boulevard, thus including parts of present-day St. Albans. But in 1852, the old mill pond that is now at the center of Baisley Pond Park was acquired by the Brooklyn Water Works for use as a reservoir. In 1872, the Long Island Railroad Cedarhurst Cutoff was built through the area, but no stop appears on the first timetables. In 1892, an area called Francis Farm was surveyed and developed for housing. There were numerous Francis families farming in the eastern portion of the town of Jamaica in the 1880s. Francis Lewis Boulevard, named for a singer or a signer of the Declaration of Independence from Queens, which does not yet appear on maps from 1909 nor in 1910, is now the eastern boundary of St. Albans. Soon, the first streetlights illuminated the crossroads that is now Linden Boulevard and Farmers Boulevard. New shops clustered around August Everett's Lone Store, and by July 1st of 1898, the St. Albans Long Island Railroad Station opened where the tracks crossed Locust Avenue, which is now Baisley Boulevard. The station was raised and replaced with the current grade-separated station on October 15, 1935. In 1899, a year after Queens became part of New York City and with the town of Jamaica and the village of Jamaica thereby dissolved, the new post office for the 600 residents was named St. Albans after St. Albans in Hertfordshire, England, which itself was named after a St. Alban, thought to be the first Christian martyred in England. The name had been in use for the area since at least 1894 for the name of the school district, and the LIRR station was named St. Albans when it opened in 1898. A 1909 map also shows a St. Albans Avenue and a St. Albans Place in the area. The St. Albans Golf Course, built in 1915, brought rich and famous golfers, including baseball star Babe Ruth. The Depression forced the golf course owners to try to sell, but plans for private development fell through. The land was seized by the federal government in 1942, and construction soon began on the St. Albans Naval Hospital, which opened in 1943. After construction was completed in 1950, the hospital had 3,000 beds and contained a network of 76 wards. The hospital was turned over to the Veterans Administration in 1974 and more recently evolved into the Veterans Administration St. Albans Primary and Extended Care Facility. Within St. Albans is the small western enclave of Adelaide Park, U.S. Historic District, that consists of single-family homes built in a variety of styles between the 10s and 30s. Though originally intended as a segregated community for white people only, from the late 1930s, many notable African Americans have lived there. Today, it remains a predominantly African American and Jamaican enclave that is more upscale than surrounding areas in southeast Queens. Between 1900 and 1940, the village of Adelaide Park was developed by a handful of eminent white entrepreneurs, including Edwin H. Brown, Gerald C. English, and Alexander Rodman. Restrictive covenants were established to prohibit the sale of any of its properties to blacks. A 1926 New York Times article insists Adelaide, together with the St. Albans Golf Club, was laid out under the personal direction of Edwin H. Brown and carries a land and house restriction of the highest type. 2 lawsuits were filed successfully by white residents who accused their neighbors of breaking the contractual segregation imposed on the neighborhood by its developers. Simeon Bankoff, executive director of the New York Historic Districts Council, says about this backlash, "It was unpleasant, as it was a case of a number of narrow-minded neighbors trying to fight what they saw as an invasion of unwanted people in their area." Affluent white New York City-based public figures moved into Adelaide Park to experience the privacy of suburban seclusion. Adelaide Park boasted well-kept rows of Tudor and colonial homes, and the neighborhood's close proximity to Manhattan allowed for quick and frequent commuting. During the swing era, Manhattan's 52nd Street served as the epicenter of swing-era live entertainment and musical innovation. For this reason, many successful African-American jazz musicians began to recognize Adelaide Park as the newest suburban haven for wealthy, influential artists. In 1948, the United States Supreme Court ruled that racially restrictive covenants violated the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment, though by that year, Adelaide Park had already become a haven for world-famous African Americans in jazz and sports. The neighborhood was declared a historic district by the New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission in 2011. And that will conclude our show for tonight, folks. As you saw, Rosedale and St. Albans, 2 great historic cities that have come a long way since the days of segregation and have really established themselves as places to really live in a middle-class community. I'm Jason Icanio, and we thank you for joining us here tonight on the Queens New Yorker. We'll see you the next time as we look at more neighboring cities. We're going to take a look at, next week it'll be South Jamaica. That'll be a big one. Oh, yeah. It might be we'll see. Yeah. South Jamaica, and if we have time, we'll also look at Springfield Gardens as well. But that'll be on the tail end of episode number 33. Hope you have a great week. We'll see you the next time right here. And remember, be honest, be real, and keep it simple, stupid. Kiss. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You have been watching the New Yorker, Jason Kelly on Jason Anio online presentation. Thank you for the support.
JDC, Orlando, the home of Canios Jazz Show. Enjoy.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David Dyson Network for great more content like this one.